Good afternoon, Seattle. Welcome back to Le Freres Heureux, the Frasier podcast with two brothers. That's us.
That's it.
The brothers.
We are the brothers.
I am Fraser.
And I am Ewan.
And we are the brothers. We're here to do a cheeky little retrospective of our favourite show and give our thoughts along the way. Just go one by one. Well, disc by disc.
6 by 6.
6 by 6. The animals did go marching on.
Yeah.
Well, the Frasier episodes went marching on. We're about halfway through season 6 now. Well,
yeah.
We will be when we finish this episode.
We will also not only be halfway through season 6, halfway through the whole show.
That's true.
This is episode 22.
The very midpoint, isn't it?
Of 44. So
yeah,
that's us into the second half of Frasier.
Wow. It feels like no time at all.
I know.
It feels like some time.
Yeah, a little bit of time.
It's been a couple of weeks since we were last recording.
Yeah.
We had to take a wee break. I was on holiday, soaking in the sun.
I know.
And then come back, and the sun's still here.
The sun's still here. It's very hot here.
It's absolutely boiling. It doesn't help that this room is pretty stuffy and full of tech that just exudes heat.
I know.
Yeah, it gets very hot and makes it very difficult to think straight and chat for long periods of time. So today it might be a little bit more brief than normal.
Yeah. I'll tell you what definitely doesn't make the heat wave better is having a fever from COVID.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that for free.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So if any of the editing of the past couple of episodes has been a bit off, it's because I was completely delirious while I was doing it.
Yeah, I got to go for a couple of weeks in the sun, and you got to stay in bed for a week.
I know.
With COVID.
Yeah.
But it's fine, because we've both had it now, so we're unlikely to
We're not going to give it
get
to each
it
other
again soon. Well, one can hope anyway.
Yeah. Got at least a few weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. This disc is a significant improvement over the last one, I think. We did have differing opinions. You were definitely a lot more critical of the first disc of season 6.
I'm not a fan of the first disc. This one I think is definitely a lot better.
I'm hoping that there's definitely a couple of episodes I think we can agree on are pretty good.
Yeah.
Other ones I'm curious to see how you rank them. And yeah, we'll see what happens. And then that's halfway through.
Yeah.
We're almost done.
We are.
What are we going to move on to next?
I don't know.
Let
us know, regular listeners. Send us tweets, put comments in the YouTube videos.
I feel like the logical thing to move on to would be Cheers, but I don't know if I'd have the.
I don't know if I don't really enjoy
do.
Cheers as much. I watched the first couple of seasons, and I don't enjoy it as much. It's just
We could do a mini. We could do what is there 9 seasons, 10 seasons?
What was it? 11, I think.
11 series.
I was going to say 82 to 93.
We could do a mini series. We could do 1 episode per season of Cheers.
Maybe.
I don't think I could cope doing 1 disc again.
No.
Frasier's fine.
Yeah.
I like Frasier. I know I like Frasier.
Yeah.
It's easy to talk about it. If we're going back and watching something for the first time, I think that's gonna be a lot more difficult to talk about.
Yeah.
For 40 odd episodes. We'll see. We've got a couple of ideas in the bank, so
we do.
We'll see what we move on to.
Yeah.
But for now, yes, let's crack on with some more Frasier. How to Bury a Millionaire is the first episode up on this disc. You might remember we left Niles in a bit of a pickle. Maris is taking him to the cleaners and is going to completely wreck him financially due to their separation. And this is sort of carrying on the fallout from that. I don't know how soon after it's set. It's implied like a couple of weeks or so.
Yeah. Niles
has had to sell his car. He's driving a hideous old hatchback. And Frasier and Martin see him while they're out driving, which leads to the discovery that Niles is paying far too much money for his rent. He's indulging in antiques and knickknacks that he really shouldn't be when he's trying to tighten his belt. What was it? He cut the cleaning lady down to 2 days a week.
Yeah.
And it's still like spotless.
Of course.
This whole episode's he's just trying to come to terms with that. He moves in with Frasier for a wee while, and then Frasier and Martin and Daphne, I think, as well, seem to get sick of him pretty quickly. And he's forced to move into his own cheaper apartment, the Shangri-La, which does become his residence for
a little while.
Is it season 6?
Yeah.
It is season 6. He moves out again. Yeah, okay. I was trying to remember if it was a bit longer, but
it's not too long before he gets to go back to the Montana. I don't even know if they have any other episodes where we actually... There are a few episodes where they make reference to him being in the Shangri-La, but I don't think we actually see him in the apartment
inside. I'm
trying other than in this episode when they see him moving in.
Yeah, I can't remember actually. Possibly not. It's a nice wee apartment. It's
to be honest, it is.
It's fine. They look down on it, and I think this is another instance of Frasier and Niles really showing their elitism.
Yeah.
In judging, like he's got a wee hatchback car that's fine. Like there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
It's a car. It gets you from A to B. He does say it doesn't have power steering, which is a joke I never really got. He said he's got a sore shoulder after he re-rent someone. They re-rent him.
Yeah, he's distracted because he sees someone on the street who's going to judge him for his car, so he hits something and injures his shoulder.
Yeah, and then he makes a joke that his shoulder's actually sore because he's been parallel parking all week without power steering.
Yeah,
which I never understood. Until I got power steering, and then I realized it's a godsend.
Yeah.
I like this episode. I think it's a good reflection of Niles kind of coming to terms with it. Frasier makes a really good point towards the end of the episode. Niles is kind of having a bit of a panic attack, and he tries to phone Maris and kind of realizes that he can't go back to her.
Yeah.
He's come too far at this point. And Frasier makes a really good point, basically saying, if living here is the price that you have to pay for your freedom from Maris, then surely it's worth it.
Yeah.
And he kind of agrees and realizes, staying here for a wee while, driving a fine car, is, if that's what it takes to get away from Maris and to live his life, it is worth it. And I like that. And it's kind of funny seeing Niles go through the various stages of like denial again and and upset and everything. He gets his Hawaiian shirt on, left by the previous resident. I love that. That's another joke that I never got as a kid.
Yeah.
That's so funny when they're being shown around the apartment by the landlord or whoever, and everything's been left behind, the sheets and the toaster and the shirts in the closet, and Niles or Frey, I can't remember who, says like, did the previous resident not, is it Gary, I think his name is, did Gary not leave a forwarding address? And the landlord says like, he left a note, but no forwarding address. I never understood that joke as a kid. But
poor Gary.
I know.
I really like Michael McShane, or Mike McShane, who plays the landlord.
Is he in other things?
He's he appeared quite a lot in Whose Line Is It Anyway in the 90s. He did quite a lot of like improv comedy. He did some acting as well, but he never appeared in a lot acting-wise. Yeah. But he did a lot of improv, and he was a regular in Whose Line Is It Anyway, and he's just a really, really funny guy. Yeah. So I always like seeing him in this. It's just like a quick little... Because some of his mannerisms are really funny. He's quite a large guy, and when he shakes his head, he kind of like his sort of jowly shaking his head and muttering under his breath.
He left a note, but no.
Yeah,
I do like that. He's a fun little guest star. And by the end of the episode, we've got a Niles come to terms with this sort of interim stage of his life before he can move on. And that's kind of how he sits for, I think we got a good dozen episodes or so. I think it's not too long.
No, it's not too long.
But And then he moves into the next stage, which again is more to talk about. But we'll get to that. What do you think about How to Bury a Millionaire?
So I was a bit on the fence. In the end, I've given it a 3.
Okay.
But it's a high 3. I was tempted to give it a 4, but I don't quite think I could give it a 4.
Okay. Why?
What
just brought it down?
So I don't really know, to be honest. I feel like I just don't enjoy this one. There are a couple of other episodes on this disc that I've given 4s.
Okay.
And I just don't think it's quite as good as those.
That's fair.
But similarly, I don't think those episodes are quite as good as 5, so I've kind of needed to stagger it down a little.
Fair enough. I did give it a 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do quite like this episode. Majority of the Niles-centric episodes are pretty highly rated. And this one's no different. I do like it. I like the different set pieces. I like, they're out driving at the start and they have this, they have the jokes in the car where Niles is pretending that they can't see him.
Pretending.
I'm just stepping onto the elevator, bye, and then hangs up on them.
Yeah.
And then there's Montana and Frasier does this, right, I don't know, you might know what I'm talking about. When Niles is trying to work out his budget and he writes down how much he pays in rent, and Frasier, Kelsey Grammer, the way he turns around to Niles and says, "You pay that much in rent?" And the way he says it is so aggressive. And I don't know why.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean.
It always sticks out to me in this episode, but I don't know. Yeah, it's just really bizarre. He just gets so angry about it. So yeah, we have Montana, and then we've got like the two brothers sleeping in the same bedroom as well. Niles trying to get to sleep with his forest sounds and everything.
His breathing exercises.
Which is really funny. And then obviously we've got the Shangri-La as well. Is good fun.
Yeah.
So I like just sort of the difference in sets.
Yep.
In this, it's we've got quite a few, and it allows each part serves its purpose.
Yeah.
I still like that. So.
Yeah. Well, good. Yeah, no, I agree with you that I think it's a strong episode.
Yeah.
Like I say, I was tempted to give it a 4, so I'm not that far off your score as well.
Good. I am glad.
Yeah.
That we are in almost agreement. Moving on then. Another Niles-ish episode. The Seal Who Came to Dinner. Niles and his... Now, remind me, it's not wine club, it's like cookery club.
It's like a gourmet society or whatever.
And they're trying to elect the next, is it Golden Apron? They call it. Whoever, like the maestro or whatever they call it.
Yeah.
And it's not Corkmaster.
It's not Corkmaster, because the
on.
wine club has the Corkmaster.
Yeah. But it's that kind of idea. They've got this, whoever running the club or whatever, and Niles is up for it, but they need part of the test competition is that they need to throw a dinner, and because he's staying at the Shangri-La, he obviously cannot have his high class snooty friends coming along and eating there next to the hot tub or the buffet or whatever it is they've got. So Frasier reluctantly offers his apartment, but there is a crack in the window. A little bird flew into and cracked the window, which must have been some bird.
Oh yeah,
if it cracked the glass. But anyway, so Niles is obviously very fussy about this, which we've seen before. Back when Frasier's throwing the party for the wine club.
Yeah. In Kiss is Sweeter Than Wine.
And they drop the
they
chair.
Get the scuff on the floor.
Similar premise.
Yeah, it is.
And obviously, so Niles can't have it there, and they eventually decide to throw it at Maris's beach house because she's in Antwerp having her elbows done.
Yeah,
I love Niles' little.
He does. He kind of does a little chicken dance when he's talking about Maris getting her elbows done.
So yeah, lovely beach house out. They're going. There's a meteor shower on the night that he's throwing the dinner. It's all coming. It's all lining up for him. He's got Marcel. Now what's his name? Marcel de Poufda.
Something like that.
I can't understand what they say. He's obviously French, but
yeah.
I always think of like Poof Daddy.
Yes.
But I don't know like what his actual name is.
I don't know. Yeah, Chef Marcel. I think I'm sure I saw on IMDb he's just listed as Chef Marcel.
Chef Marcel. Oh, the dog is unhappy with something downstairs.
Yeah, is that getting picked up? That's probably getting picked up.
It's getting picked up. The microphone's picking it up. Yeah, Marcel de Poof Daddy, as he will henceforth be known,
of course,
as well. So he's got everything's lining up, and he's got a pretty good shot until they step outside and realize that there is a large, bloated, dead seal on the beach right in front of the beach.
Yeah,
I mean, what are the chances, really? How often do seals just wash up on the beach? I know it's American, but is that a common thing?
It's interesting that you should ask, because this is actually based on a true story.
Oh, really?
Yes. The writer and producer, Christopher Lloyd, not that Christopher Lloyd, not the one that's in Back to the Future, the one that is the regular writer-producer on Frasier. He was throwing a party in a beach house that he was renting, and a bloated dead seal washed up, and he had to row it out to sea in a kayak and chucked it, and then he came back and it was back on the beach again because it had washed back in, and presumably he immediately went, that'd be a really good episode of Frasier. I'm writing that down.
I mean, yeah. And yeah, quite right he was, because it is a pretty good episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all a bit farcical. He and Frasier, Niles and Frasier, I should say, try and get rid of the seal. As you say, they row it out to sea. They try and bury it. They wrap it in one of Maris's like shawls, because they don't have any
the peignoir,
because they don't have any sheets in the beach house.
Yeah,
and they have to stab it because they want to reduce
to make it less buoyant.
Yeah. It's all just bizarre. And then when the guests arrive and Chef Marcel can't find his butcher's knife, and
oh god,
and then the neighbor calls the police on them because she thinks that it's Maris that's getting stabbed on the beach. And oh man, it's all a bit of a mess. And to be fair, they do try and justify it in the end. They do try and explain to the police what happened, but they don't get to the point quick enough.
No,
they just don't. And not, to be fair, if the police showed up and you're standing there with a bloody butcher knife and a blood-soaked peignoir, you're getting taken in.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Regardless of what your story
100%.
So yeah, the night is over, justifiably so. We don't know what happens, but obviously they get out eventually. They get away with it. I always remember this as being a bit of a bizarre episode. Just because of the premise is so weird. So it's really funny that you're saying it's based on a
true story. Of all of the Frasier stories to be based on a true story, it's weird that this is the one.
There are definitely some better dinner party episodes, but there are a lot worse as well.
Yeah,
a lot more that are worse.
Yeah.
As well, so I think this is definitely on the higher ranked list of the dinner parties.
Yeah, I think because there are a few of these like Frasier Niles dinner party curses where anytime they try and have any sort of event, something goes horribly wrong. And this is probably just a really solid example of that. This is
kind of taking it to the nth degree. With the ridiculousness of it.
It's pretty
but
pretty
definitely
ridiculous.
It is. Very, very apt for the two brothers. Poor guys. Well, poor Niles. I don't really care about Frasier. He was just in it to get his...
He was just in it to
get chatting with...
Whatever her name was, this...
Radio manager. Or
station owner, I think.
Yeah. So, I gave it a 4.
I also gave it a 4.
Yeah. I think it's more than deserving of a pretty high.
Yeah, I think so. I think rank. It's a really strong episode. Wouldn't quite give it a 5, but definitely on the upper end.
Yeah, it's got some really great jokes in it, and just some of the timing as well.
Yeah.
Particularly after like the seal arrives once they get to the beach house and everything. trying to like navigate around that. You know, when they go and they have a clapping anchor lamp.
Yeah.
Which Maris bought, but then was too weak to actually use. Which is, I always love that line.
Yeah.
But they tie it to the seal to try and weigh it down, and once it floats back in, everyone steps out onto the deck to watch the meteors, and they all start clapping at midges, and the lights just turning on and off.
Oh god.
And then Niles can't see the seal, so he claps, and he's like, "Oh, there it is," and then turns it off again. It's just, there's something very quick.
Yeah.
About the humor, which I really enjoy, especially when, as I say, it's just so farcical and ridiculous.
Yeah.
I can imagine Christopher Lloyd didn't have an anchor clap lamp.
Probably not. I think that might have been going a bit. Yeah.
You never know. Maybe he did.
Maybe.
Maybe he was a collector of antique anchor lamps.
Yeah. With clappers installed.
With clappers installed. That's got to be a pretty niche market.
Yep. Must be. There are a couple of interesting guest stars in this one.
Do tell.
So, actually, one I'm sure I mentioned before, at the start of season 4. Cast your mind back about 8 weeks or however long it was that we were talking about that. In the episode The Impossible Dream,
yeah,
Frasier's getting frustrated because all of his callers are calling with really stupid things. And a regular caller is Rudy the Crier, who cries a lot. And he was voiced by Sebastian Melmoth, who plays one of the characters in this. No, Sebastian Melmoth is the character in this. He's played by Christopher Durang, who is the one who has an allergy to bivalves.
Oh, yeah.
The little guy with the glasses.
Yeah.
Who is competing with Niles. He's just had a
kimono
party? It was like a geisha
party. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah. So I find that funny that's Rudy the Crier. He's back again.
He is a whiny boy in this as well.
Oh yeah, he is. And also an unnamed party guest who presumably does have a speaking role, but I don't actually know who it is. Someone that's at the party is played by Suzanne Blakesley, who is best known as a voice actor, but probably mostly known as the voice of Wanda from The Fairly Odd Parents.
Really?
As well as just a bunch of other stuff, like lots of, cartoons and
how about that?
Various Disney things. One of the few times she appears in person, I don't even know if she has many lines at all. She's just kind of in the background.
I do like Fairly Odd Parents. That was a good show. Is it still going?
It is, actually, because I saw when I was looking her up on IMDb, they've got a new one that's like the fairies are animated, but the rest is live action.
Oh, that doesn't sound good.
I don't know, probably not.
No. There you go. Well, that's the seals done and dead, and presumably dealt with by the. They don't have the SSPCA in America, do they?
No.
What do they have? Just animal control.
Animal control.
Yeah. So hopefully that seal is at peace now. As we move on to Roz alone. Not like alone, like by herself. It's like alone, like monetary gift. In case people are listening and not reading the titles. Yeah, just making sure.
A loan.
A loan. Roz. A loan. And unsurprisingly, the episode is about Roz and getting a loan.
Yep.
That's what it says in the tin. She's running a bit thin after so many months of being unemployed. She's obviously struggling a little bit. She does say she was been at the temp agency, so I presume she has been working in some capacity. But obviously not doing radio production.
We do actually find out in a very, very late episode, one of the last episodes, they do a flashback to around this time, and there's a joke about Roz working for a phone sex line.
Oh, yeah.
So that's, as much as we're not actually going to see that for a long time, that is something that's happening around about now.
Okay, yeah. I'd phone. Yeah. I'm not going to lie. Just being honest here. Anyway, but either way, she is struggling. So Frasier offers to give her a loan to help her stay afloat, much like the seal. And as she does that, as she takes the loan, Frasier sees that she's spending more and more money. She's going out for fancy dinners and spa treatments, and Bidwell's, the big shopping centre.
Yeah.
It's very expensive. Maris used to shop there, gained enough loyalty points to have Tony Bennett come to her house and sing.
I do love that joke.
I love that.
It's really funny.
And all while this is happening, there's rumblings that KCL are sick of the salsa.
Mm-hmm.
If you'll remember, they were replaced by a salsa station producer. No,
Well, they
salsa.
They switched out talk radio for salsa music.
Yeah, for salsa music. Amazed that it's lasted this long. To be fair,
Yeah.
So there's rumblings that the station's a bit sick of that. So all that's kind of going on as well. Frasier is told by everybody under the sun not to confront Roz, not to tell her that he knows what she's been spending money on, and that she shouldn't be, basically. Everyone tells him not to. Mm-hmm. So what does Frasier do? He confronts her.
Yep.
Well, to be fair, he wasn't going to.
He wasn't going to.
Or he was, but then he wasn't.
Yeah,
and then he was again.
He goes back and forth, and then, well, it, in the end, becomes a moot point after they realise that they are getting their jobs back.
They are.
And they go back on the day, and Roz says, "Oh, I just remembered that you were going to talk to me about something." And Frasier kind of tries to back out, but then it comes out anyway, and they have a bit of a confrontation about it.
Rightfully so. I think Roz is rightfully annoyed.
Yes. Yeah.
Because whilst I do kind of see what he's getting at, you know, in his perspective, he's seeing he's lending his friend money, who needs money to keep going, to pay for her child, to pay for groceries and blah blah blah, whatever else. And then he's hearing from his friends and family that she's out and about at restaurants and spa treatments and stuff. So I can kind of see where he's coming from, but Martin, I think, puts it in just the plainest English. You know, it's her money now. You lent her it. She will pay you it back, but it's her money. She does with it what she wants.
Yep.
Do not confront it. Just let it go. And Martin's just always the voice of reason. He gets it.
Yeah.
When no one else does. So yeah, that leads to a bit of a disagreement, but they all make up in the end. They're happy to be back at KCL. Salsa is gone out the window. Adios, Maria.
Adios, KCL.
Yeah. I wish we got to see a bit more of the salsa station. I feel like that would be like sort of a funny, you know, vignette or something around some of the episodes in between, just to see how it was going. But yeah, oh well.
That's one of the reasons that I'm not particularly big on this episode. I do like it, but I wish we had gotten more of a full episode devoted to Frasier getting back on the air and Salsa being replaced back with talk radio, because there could have been a lot of potential for having like this big rivalry where they're kind of at each other's throats trying to see who's going to come out on top, and could have gotten a more interesting story. And instead it feels a little bit like they've just sort of shoehorned that plot point into the end of an unrelated episode.
I completely agree. It very much feels like two episodes that have been merged into one. And it's not a bad episode. It definitely leaves something to be desired, though.
Yeah.
I think there's, as you say, it could have focused a bit more on what is really the main plot point of the episode, rather than making it half about one thing and half about another thing, and then sort of tying them together loosely. Yeah. I gave it a 3.
Yeah, I also gave it a 3.
It's one of those episodes that's just kind of middle of the road. It's not bad. It's just not great.
Yeah.
And it does have issues that, you know, things like that, obviously, you don't know how much of it was down to how much of it was pre-planned, and how much of it was maybe, you know, the producers they didn't want a full episode of them going back to work. They maybe wanted it to be a sort of addition to another episode,
Yeah.
and that kind of thing. You don't know how these things come together.
Mm-hmm.
They might have planned it out as 2 episodes and then thought of a better idea
Yeah.
for another episode and needed to push one back.
Mm-hmm.
So I do my best not to judge too harshly when it comes to things like this.
Yeah, no, we don't know why they decided to do it the way they did. There's probably a lot that we're not able to consider.
But when you look at it at face value,
yeah,
definitely it does feel like 2 moderate episodes merged in to make a slightly more moderate episode.
Yeah.
Slightly more medium.
Yes.
Yeah.
Extra medium.
Extra medium. Just like I like my steaks.
Yeah.
Extra medium.
Extra medium.
I don't think we have any guest stars or anything, do we?
There's no guest stars. Frasier's now back to work, which means we're going to be going back to getting guest callers again, which is nice. Although there aren't any in this episode because we don't actually see him. Well, we see him starting his show, but doesn't actually take any calls in this episode.
We've got Noel comes. Noel's, well, he never left.
Back. He never left. He was always there.
Yo hablo español, as he says.
Yeah.
So he stuck around while the salsa wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
Bulldog's back. He got fired. Fired. Just remember what he said. He got fired from his other job.
Oh yeah.
What was it? Eggs, coffee, and Bulldog.
Yeah.
The breakfast show.
Breakfast show.
And a female golfer phoned in and said she was considering entering the Women's Open. How am I supposed to leave that alone?
Oh God.
Which is just
Bulldog.
Disgusting, but so
Bulldog.
Brilliantly Bulldog. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is funny because this is the first time since the first episode of the season that we've seen Bulldog.
Yeah.
And yet he's still credited as main cast.
Yeah.
For all these episodes.
Yeah, that's true.
They don't give Dan Butler enough credit, man.
I always think season 6 is like the Bulldog season.
No.
Because it's like the one when he's like, I think it's the only one where he's on the box set.
No.
Or am I thinking season 5?
Both, I think.
He might be on both.
I think he's on 5 as well, yeah.
But like, yeah, it's weird that he's, I guess, missing from about half of the season.
I hate it. I love Bulldog so much.
Yeah,
and
it's a shame that we don't see him as much.
Yeah. Oh well.
Yeah.
That is Roz alone.
Yeah.
Unless you have something
it's just
further
a
to add.
weird little thing. So it was on IMDb trivia, and it's not a particularly interesting bit of trivia, but I thought it was worth mentioning.
That's the uninteresting bits are sometimes the most interesting.
Yeah. So we know that Frasier is a big drinker of sherry.
Yeah.
But a lot of the time when he'll pour sherry for himself or for Niles when Niles comes to the apartment and they'll sit and have a sherry. He pours it out of a decanter. We never actually see like a bottle. We never see whatever. So we don't really have much of an idea of what it is he's drinking. Apparently, I didn't actually go back to double check. I just read this on IMDb. But this is the one episode where you can actually see the bottle of sherry that he's drinking from. And it is Harvey's Bristol Cream Sherry, which is my sherry of choice as well. I drink
sherry,
that. I keep a bottle of that in the house because I like a sherry. I'm fairly sure you bought me a bottle of that for my birthday this year as well.
This year? No, not this year.
I think so.
Was it this year?
Or it might not have been my birthday. It might have been something else. So I'm fairly sure you bought me a bottle of sherry for some reason.
I'm sure I have in the past bought you sherry. You pretentious ass.
I know. What is it that Daphne calls Frasier? She's having a rant because she's annoyed. She loaned Frasier money to buy a bottle of wine and thought that he hadn't paid her back, but he actually had. He calls it a sherry swilling, foie gras munching hypocrite or something.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
There we go.
Yeah. We've not had much Daphne recently. Just thinking there.
No, not really. That's true.
She kind of steps in and makes an appearance, but we've not had many Daphne-centric.
We did have a little bit in the Seal Who Came to Dinner because Daphne is having a glass of wine in the afternoon with her friend Pam.
Oh, I forgot about Pam. Oh,
and then,
that's such a awful scene.
It's such a weird bit. Martin shows up and is clearly very taken with Pam because she reminds him of the girls that he used to date when he was in Korea, and it's this weird implication that Martin has a predilection towards Asian women.
Yeah.
And they talk about him renting the Joy Luck Club, and when they make the comment about the geisha party, he kind of perks up and goes, "Ooh, geishas!"
And I think what makes it so much worse is that it must just be this very broad like attraction to Asian women,
Which is not great.
Geisha's not like
Oh yeah,
Korean.
yeah, Korean
Geisha's
and
Japan.
Yeah, they talk about the Joy Luck Club, which is about Chinese
Is it
women
Chinese?
as well. So it's not even like it's just, he's kind of confusing them all in his head, which makes it a bit
Yeah, it
worse.
makes it a lot worse.
I do like that Daphne's very quick to shut it down
yeah.
and kind of says like it's not dating when you're an occupying force.
Yeah.
And says something about like, oh, all the women were really taken with me when I was there, and she is like, yeah, that's because it was 40 years ago and their village had just burnt down.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a very... I love the look that as they're leaving, Martin says something in Korean. I don't know what it is he says. I do not speak or understand Korean. But he says something, and I love... They both stare. I don't know if Pam, like, understands him.
Yeah.
Or and it's something weird that he said, or if she's just like, what are you saying? If it's in another Asian language or whatever. Yeah. But they both, her and Daphne both just like stare at him with this weird like, what? Like, okay, let's go. But yeah, oh man, I forgot about that scene.
It's so weird,
it's
but it is
so
funny.
good. I love it. It's just so cringy and horrible.
Yeah.
Oh, Martin, we love you most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Not all the time, though. Okay, well, yeah. Done with Roz alone. So that means we move on to one of the best episodes of the show, dare I say?
Definitely one of the best
top
episodes.
10?
Definitely best of the season, I think.
Yeah.
Or one of the best of the season. Possibly the best of the season.
I would reckon that this would hit a lot of, like, critics' top 10s.
Mm-hmm. I can imagine that. I definitely would put it pretty highly. If I were to do like top 10 episodes, it would probably make an appearance.
Yeah.
Or at least get an honorable mention. I remember the last episode that I think, or might have been the last episode I talked especially fondly about was the season 5 Christmas special.
Yeah.
Perspectives at Christmas. And I think I probably said at the time, like, oh, this is the best Christmas special. And then I'm thinking now, like, this is probably just as good.
I prefer this.
I think
I'm being honest.
I maybe prefer Perspectives at Christmas, but it is very close. I think they're both very, very funny.
Yeah. So, Merry Christmas, Mrs. Moskowitz, combines both the Christian Christmas holidays and the Jewish not Christmas holiday period.
Yes.
Do they have a holiday period then?
Well, yeah, I mean, Hanukkah's
That's true.
Just shortly before Christmas.
That's before, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, the coming together of two religions via Frasier and his new girlfriend, Faye.
Yeah.
I love Faye, by the way.
Faye's great,
she's
yeah.
amazing. I love the actor, and I love her
Yeah.
character as well. It's just so...
Yeah.
I wish we got more of her.
Amy Brenneman.
Amy Brenneman
is the actress.
Thank you, yeah.
Who has been actually in quite a lot recently.
She's in a lot of things.
She's in like
What was
quite a lot of different TV series. Like the past few years, she's actually been in quite a lot. She had her own sitcom. She was the lead in a sitcom in kind of like the 99 through to like 2005.
What was she in recently? Because there was something I saw her in. I can't remember what it was.
I can't remember. I don't think it's anything that I watched. But there are quite a few well-known things that she did recently.
She is great. I do like her. And her mum,
Yes.
Helen Moskowitz as well,
Yes.
is also a fantastic guest star.
Played by Carol Shelley,
Carol Shelley.
who was did a lot of acting on Broadway, like a lot. She was in The Odd Couple, the film, and then reprised her role in a TV series as well for quite a long time. She was in a few of the Carry On films.
Oh, nice.
She's actually English.
Is she?
Yeah. Or I think
would never have guessed.
I think she lived most of her life in the States,
Okay.
but she was born in London.
That sounded really sarcastic, but I genuinely would not have
No,
guessed.
no,
I
I was surprised to read
Yeah.
that. Like I wouldn't have known that.
Like you
She was
hear
born in England.
Jane Leaves, her accent.
Yeah.
You can tell she's not from Manchester,
She's not from
you know.
yeah.
But sometimes, accents are so good. You're like, oh wow, okay, you're not from around here, are you?
Yeah. John Mahoney's a good example.
John Mahoney's
The
a
fact
very
that
good example.
His accent, I mean, it did become his real accent because
Yeah.
he forced himself to adapt it when he moved to the States, but he just had an English accent for the first 20 years of his life or whatever.
Yeah.
You know. Anyway.
Yes, on with the plot. So, Frasier and Roz are out shopping for Christmas. The Mrs. Moskowitz steps in to save Frasier from buying a gift for Roz in front of her.
Mm-hmm.
She kind of pulls an old switcheroo, pretends the gift's for her while Roz is looking, and then passes it off to Frasier. And in return, he agrees to a date with her daughter, Faye.
Mm-hmm.
It's very awkward. Neither of them really want to do it, but they actually hit it off quite nicely.
Yeah.
They seem to get along well, which is nice to see. And presumably there's a bit of time skips. I don't know how long. It's implied
It's implied they've
couple of
been
weeks
on
or
a
something.
few dates, so
Yeah.
you know.
So they have been seeing each other.
Well, we jump from Christmas shopping, or actually pre-Hanukkah shopping, because that's one of the
true.
which is relevant
That's
to the plot.
true.
Frasier was buying a menorah
Yeah,
for Frederick.
because Lilith is Jewish.
Yes.
Which I did not realise.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew, obviously, because I've seen the
Yeah.
episode before,
Yeah.
but like up until that point, I don't think it's ever been mentioned.
I don't know if it would have been.
In the
It's
show.
probably mentioned in Cheers.
It might be mentioned. Cheers, yeah, that's true. So we've got a couple of weeks, and then the next time we see everyone is the night before Christmas. And Faye and Helen stop by. They're on their way to Florida. Presumably not for Christmas things, given that they are Jewish, but they are going on a trip, for whatever reason. Stop by to see Frasier and just say hi, I guess. And obviously the apartment is full of decorations and wreaths and whatever. Eddie's dressed up as Santa Claus. And this shocks Faye because she thought that Frasier was Jewish, given that he was buying the menorah. Hence the plot point.
Yes.
And this isn't a problem for her, but for her mother, it could be. So they agree to play along and pretend that Frasier and his family are Jewish. And that goes about as well as you would expect.
It's so funny.
I have to say, a lot of the jokes here, and I'm trying to make this sound as least as insensitive as I can. A lot of the jokes here are just funny because of like Frasier and Niles' mannerisms and like ignorance. I don't understand a lot of the references.
Yeah.
Like Judaism's not huge in the UK.
Yeah, there's probably not as much of a Jewish population here than there
Yeah.
is in, I would imagine, at least in, well, definitely some parts of the States.
Yeah, but it's very much when you're definitely in TV and stuff. I presume in real life that there is a basis for it. People assume whether someone is Jewish or not based on like names or ancestry or whatever, whereas we would probably never really consider that.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just me being a bit ignorant.
There
but
are definitely some names that if people who are more familiar with it, they heard the name, they would immediately know that the person was Jewish.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would. There are
probably
some names I would recognize
So
as
think
Jewish
names like Stein,
Yeah.
and Witz.
Yeah.
Names that end in that.
Yeah,
are sort of traditionally.
Moskowitz, I think I would have gotten that
You
they
may,
were Jewish.
yeah. But it's. I think that's definitely a more US thing that you kind of just know. I guess you're brought up in a culture that is, there are a significantly larger portion of Jewish people.
Yeah.
So you know more about it than we do. So yeah, my point is a lot of the jokes kind of go over my head a wee bit until I look them up. But there's a lot of just they're just trying to have a normal conversation.
Yeah.
And Helen sort of being polite and saying like, "Oh, I guess you were bar mitzvahed here," and he's like, "Oh yeah, I can remember reading from the Torah in front of the rabbi and look down and see everyone like the moil." And it was like, "The one who did your circumcision." It's like, I just wanted to make sure there was no hard feelings. It's just all this like trying to pretend about these things that you clearly don't know about.
He clearly remembers some of the words, but does not necessarily know what they all mean, and it's very funny.
I tell you, the one joke that I don't get, and I still don't know, so I wonder if you know. When Niles shows up, he's obviously implied to be, or has to pretend to be Jewish as well. He's part of the family, and he's helping Martin. Who obviously is even more ignorant than the two boys. He's just doesn't have a clue. Niles at least has an idea and is kind of poking fun at Frasier while he does it. But the one thing is when they serve the wine, Niles puts something in the wine.
Yeah.
Is it salt or is it sugar?
Sugar.
Sugar.
Yes.
So it's Jewish wine traditionally sweet then?
I think there's a specific kind of red wine that would be called like Jewish wine.
Right.
I don't actually know exactly what makes it something that Jewish people drink a lot of. I don't know if it's just a cultural thing or if there's a specific reason that it's kosher or something. Manischewitz. I don't know if you would have heard of that, but that's like a Jewish red wine, and it's apparently particularly sweet. Okay. So and then of course they just put sugar in regular red wine, and they go like, oh, it's disgusting and perfect. Yeah. It's very funny.
But it's it's I like these kind of episodes because it's not, the joke is very much based in the ignorance of their knowledge of what Jewish religion is, what it is to be Jewish, rather than making fun of Jewish people. And I really like when they get that balance right, because it's so easy to kind of take the piss, I guess. Yeah. It's very much rooted in they do not know how to behave in this scenario. And to make it 10 times, worse for them, better for the viewer, Niles is helping out Daphne with a Christmas play, which is both religious and secular in nature. So what is it? They have Rudolph. No, what is it? Deck the Halls, followed by the Three Wise Men, followed by Rudolph and the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Yeah, they've got the no room at the inn scene, and then they've worked Jacob Marley from a Christmas Carol into the manger scene.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I would see that play just to see.
It would just be nuts.
Absolute mess. But
it ends with the Three Wise Men and Santa's elves all linking arms and singing Frosty the Snowman.
And
oh my god!
All while this is going on, so Niles has come on to help out with the music. I think Daphne's asked him to help with the music. He's obviously very talented and whatever. And last minute, one of the key players has slipped and fallen in the shower, and so Niles is asked to come on and take his place. And we don't know what is happening yet, right? So as you're watching the episode, Daphne asks him to come and help out, and they leave the apartment together. They find out which actor was injured. Yeah. And Niles is obviously a bit dismayed.
Yeah. It's partly I spelled well because it's Mr. Blanchett was the actor, Blanchett, which I'm worried now that I might be wrong, but I'm guessing that's also a Jewish name, Blanchett. And that's kind of what encouraged the reaction from Niles.
But he kind of he says "oi," which is traditionally a Jewish sort of phrase, I guess. And then sort of a few scenes later, totally. No lines of dialogue. We see Niles run back into the apartment dressed in full Jesus garb with the big beard and the long hair and everything. Oh my God. Running around the apartment. He's sniffling. He's looking for his hay fever medication or whatever. And so he's running around in the background while Helen and Faye are still trying to sort everything out, and it's just madness, and it's so funny. And when one of my favourite lines, and it's not even the line itself, it's the delivery of the line from Niles, is when Niles is telling Frasier what happened, and he says the guy who was playing Jesus, he slipped and fell in the shower, and then he kind of goes, man who could walk on water, but and just the way he's it's so sort of blasé about it and just kind of writes it off it's so funny. I don't know what it is. Just the way he says it gets me every time. I love it. But yeah, the episode kind of culminates, and obviously they are found out after Helen goes to use the powder room, and the Christmas tree that's been delivered is set up in there, and Niles is snorting his hay fever medication dressed as Jesus. It's a sight to behold, and I think that should be everyone's screensaver.
It's fantastic.
Just Niles'
it's so
face.
funny.
It's amazing. So yeah, they get found out, and obviously there's no hard feelings, but Helen and Faye have a bit of an argument. Niles, Frasier and Martin have a bit of an argument, and then they all make up in time for Christmas.
Yep.
Or Florida holiday, I guess, if you're not celebrating Christmas. And yeah, it's very good fun. It's a very funny episode. As I say, a lot of it based around just this total miscommunication and total ignorance to how to behave around a different religion. It's so funny. I love it, man. How did you rank it?
I mean, I couldn't not give it a 5.
A 5.
This is a 5-cupper.
It is absolutely a 5-cupper. I completely agree. Yeah. I think it's a wonderful episode. I think I've made this mistake before, so I'm not going to say it again. Or I almost made this mistake before. I think I said this exact same thing. I had the same crisis.
Yeah.
But I don't want to commit to saying it's my favourite Christmas episode.
Yeah.
But it's definitely one of them.
Yeah.
It's definitely up there.
There are 3 Christmas episodes that I think jump out as all being fantastic. I'm probably going to wind up giving all 3 of them 5s.
Is High Holidays the last one?
High Holidays is the last one.
Okay.
And I
think I'd rank this higher than High Holidays. We'll see.
We've got
quite a while before we get to
I probably would, but I also think I might. I mean, it's been a little while since I've watched it, actually.
Yeah. No, I think at least up until this point, I think Merry Christmas, Mrs. Moskowitz is probably my favourite Christmas episode. Maybe. I don't know. I change my mind so often. I watch an episode and I'm like, that one's great.
Yeah.
And then I watch something else in a couple of weeks and I'm like, that's much better.
Yeah.
It kind of comes with, just that how recent it is in your brain, you know? What's the word?
I don't know.
How new, how fresh.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
It is starting to get mighty warm in here. I'm going to pick up the pace a little bit. Okay. We've had a great episode now for a slightly less good episode.
Yeah.
Good Samaritan, right? It tries so hard to tell a sort of great story and a good moral lesson, I suppose. But the episode itself just kind of falls a bit flat.
It does.
I'm being honest.
No, I agree.
Frasier is, as the episode goes on, getting sicker and sicker of being like the nice guy. Not like nice guy TM, which he is on occasion.
He is sometimes.
But like just generally just being kind to people. He finds a wallet on the ground in Nervosa. The guy comes up and chastises him because the $7 that was there is missing. Even though Frasier didn't take it. Like he still slags him off for it. And it's like, okay. And then he helps someone change a tire. And accidentally scratches the side of the car with his cufflinks while doing it. The guy calls into his show and has a go at him because he scratched the car, and then we find out that the car was just an ancient rust bucket anyway, which is ridiculous. There's one more thing. What's the other thing?
He when he's collectible, so Frederick's coming up because it's Frederick's birthday.
Yes.
And he goes to pick Frederick up at the airport and helps a woman load a dog. Is it a dog? It's a dog, I think.
Is it a dog? Sorry.
A dog in a carrier.
Yeah.
Into her car. Not realizing that the car's six
blocks away from the airport.
So he's kind of carrying it and it's slobbering all over him, and then he eventually does load it in, and
she drives off.
Without saying thank you.
Which is, I mean, just to me, that's like inconceivable. I can't imagine how mad I would be if someone did that to me. But yeah, so he's pretty sick up of being the good guy and doing nice things and being kind. And after filling in, he doesn't find out about this one, but Bulldog as well is this is good. Bulldog comes and begs Roz and Frasier to take the midnight slot, the late night slot on the show, because supposedly his mum is having open heart surgery. And Roz immediately calls him out on it and says, "Oh yeah, aye right. We know that there's a big fight in Vegas tonight. We know where you're going. We know you're pulling our leg." And then when Bulldog phones his mum, Roz takes the phone and starts like mocking her. So what she says, it's like, "Oh, does somebody have a boo-boo on their heart? Is someone going to open up your chest with those big old rib spreaders?" "Oh, I'm so sorry, Mrs. Briscoe," and realizes that it is actually her.
Yeah.
So we obviously, we're kind of pulled in and then thrown back, and we realize that Bulldog's being genuine until he goes to leave the cafe, and he tells his date that before they go to the airport to Vegas, they need to drop off a case of Schlitz.
It's $50 and a case of Schlitz for his mum.
Who was obviously in on it as well.
Good for Bernice.
They've obviously made up since their incident.
Yes. Since he tried to use her as a human shield.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's why the $50. Normally it's just a case of Schlitz to lie for him. So anyway, there's a few different things going on. Frasier's a bit sick of it. And as he's driving home from that late midnight slot, he sees a woman standing in the rain. And we're then taken on this journey where he picks up the woman. The woman turns out not to be a woman, and turns out to be a prostitute.
Yeah.
Obviously, the terminology might be a bit dated here. It is implied to be a transvestite man. Whatever pronouns or whatever they use these days is up for debate, but that is the joke. He is arrested while this prostitute is in the car with him. They're both taken to jail. Niles and Martin come and bail Frasier out. Obviously very embarrassing for them and Crystal.
Yes.
And when he gets home in the morning, the newspaper knows all about it. Frasier Crane, Dr. Crane's been caught with a prostitute in his car. And Frederick is woken up, and he comes and speaks to Frasier, and he's like, "Oh, what happened?" and blah 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 blah. And, "Well, are you saying that I shouldn't help people then?" And it fades out with this question kind of unanswered, and it cuts back to Frasier deciding whether he should pick the woman up. And ultimately he decides to pick the woman up. Yeah. It turns out to be a woman who lives in his building. Yeah. And all is well, and his belief in helping people is kind of restored by the end of the episode. I really like the message that it gives.
Yes.
I have to say, I as much as I don't particularly like the episode, I think it's a really sweet message in that no matter how many times things can go wrong, you should still try and help people. Yeah. You should still do your best to be kind. And I think it's especially important with the inclusion of Frederick in the story. In him teaching his son that, I think is very important. Yeah,
if he were to just not help people because sometimes it's inconvenient, and that's the message that he's passing on to Frederick, then that's what causes society to collapse. Well, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean that is it. It's all about having empathy for people and helping people out when they're down on their luck. We need more of that. Yeah. So yeah, I really like the message the episode gives. Unfortunately, the rest of the episode is a bit meh. Yeah. And just doesn't really hold up. It's not all that funny. It's kind of bland. The jokes about like the prostitute are very dated nowadays. So I'm sure that may have been funnier at the time. But now it's kind of like, oh, haha, I get it. It's a man dressed as a woman. Yep. That's hilarious. And it's like,
This is something that people will criticize. I've seen people criticizing Frasier specifically for this episode, for how this character is presented. And people criticize other things along the same lines. One of the big ones, and I know anytime I bring up Friends, you complain that I'm bringing up Friends. But there's a whole thing with one of Chandler's parents they keep referring to as Chandler's dad, in spite of the fact that most people believe that she's probably a trans woman, right? Rather than a man, but they're not concrete on it one way or the other because it was the late 90s and people didn't really, they didn't know. It wasn't, It wasn't as ingrained in the culture as it is now, where people are going to express that in a way that is more clear cut and able to understand. So it's hard to tell whether Crystal is a trans woman or a cisgender man who wears women's clothes.
Yeah, I think it's hard to criticize shows like this. It's for things like that in the mid-90s. Like there are some jokes that do go over the line, in my opinion. I think I wouldn't argue this is one of them.
Yeah, but
then again, I'm not one of the people who would be, affected by jokes like these. So it's hard for me to say exactly. But it's not in great taste. And it definitely wasn't at the time, but I personally wouldn't view it as like actively offensive.
Yeah.
I think it's just maybe a little bit misjudged.
Yeah, no, that's true.
So it does kind of annoy me that there is a lot of, I don't want to say cancel culture. I'm gonna sound like a right knob if I say that. Yeah. But you know what I mean? I think there are people who do take offense to things that are kind of in the past and they just kind of need to move on from. You look at people like David Hyde Pierce, and I'm thinking of David Hyde Pierce and like Perry Gilpin and Baby Newworth, who I have all seen recently on social media. They're all championing like left-wing politics.
Yeah.
Things like trans issues, LGBT issues, like they're all for that. So I don't think it's fair to go back and say, hey, you made a show 30 years ago that makes fun of these things. And it's like, well, maybe, but in all the years since, they've, been defending it and putting money towards charities that support it.
Yeah.
And being vocal and honest about all these things. So I don't think it's fair to criticize because of that when you've done so much since, and probably around the time, to be fair. Yeah. So these kind of things bug me a little bit. I think there's some cases it's justified. There's definitely some cases it's justified.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think this is something that comes across as overly offensive. I think in the end, because we see Crystal again when Frasier is leaving the police station after he's been bailed out, Crystal goes past and kind of calls over and says like, oh, I'm sorry I got you arrested.
Yeah.
And Frasier says, it's okay. It was an honest mistake. Don't worry about it. And there's that level of humanity there and empathy, and they're not presenting Crystal as just this one note, like, haha, you thought it was a woman, but it's actually a man, or however they would identify that there is more to this woman than you might expect when you first saw them. And that was this joke that could easily have been in bad taste, but here I don't necessarily think it was. It's they're sympathetic towards the character, at least a little bit. I'm sure today people probably wouldn't have made quite the same jokes or had characters react in quite the same way. But that's not to say that at the time it was meant maliciously.
Exactly. And I think, to be fair, there are shows and movies and stuff that come out these days that are making jokes that are a lot worse than
100%
these
100%.
that are absolutely justified in their criticisms. So I don't know, I just feel like people should put their energy where it's needed than worrying about a show that's not even on the air anymore. I don't know, maybe that's me and my lefty woke politics.
I know.
Okay, did we do ratings? We got on a bit
no,
of a tangent.
I don't think we did.
Didn't.
We
how did you go? How did it do for you?
So I give it a 2.
A 2. 2 for you.
Yeah, a 2 for me, because I agree with you on like the overall concept of the episode being really strong, and this exploration of like it can be really frustrating to do the right thing all of the time, especially if you're getting if you're facing consequences for doing a good thing, it's going to make you less likely to want to do good things. But like, you need to keep going.
Yeah,
you know. And I like that they're talking about that. Unfortunately, the rest of the episode's not as good.
Yeah,
and I'm not sure how I feel. We have been talking about it, but like the kind of the jokes about Crystal, I'm not sure how I feel about them. On the one hand, I don't necessarily think they were meant maliciously, so I don't want to criticize them too harshly. But at the same time, like looking back now, they're not great. And that affects my opinion.
It leaves that little bit of a sour taste in your mouth, and you're kind of like, okay, it does skewer your view, definitely.
Yeah.
Even if it isn't, even if you know objectively it's not malicious.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I agree with your rating and with what you've said pretty much. I like that scene with Bulldog. I think that's very funny.
Yeah.
I like the scene with Niles and Daphne and Martin greeting Freddie with a surprise party and a cake with Louis Pasteur's face on it, which is
that is funny,
terrifying but hilarious.
Yeah, and then they have the joke when they start the party. Martin's criticizing Frasier for his whole Good Samaritan Boy Scout thing, and kind of says like you shouldn't. Like sometimes you just need to not help people because people are rotten, and he says like people are born rotten and they get worse with every passing year, and then they immediately start singing happy birthday. And that's a really funny joke.
I like Martin's outlook on life. Just people stink.
Yeah,
but also I do want to believe that there's good in people as well.
I can't remember if it's Martin or if it's... I think it might be Roz in The Friend, but Frasier says something once about like, oh, I believe in the kindness of strangers. And they say, yeah, well, I believe in the strangeness of strangers. Which is... It can be true sometimes. I mean, I agree. Absolutely. You should do your best to help people whenever you can and try and see the best in people. But like, there are some weirdos out there. There's no getting around that.
Yeah. Okay. Any guest spots?
Yeah, there are actually. So we've mentioned that Frasier had a bit of a run-in with Ralph, who he helped change his tire and then scratched up his car. He calls into the show to complain. Is voiced by William H. Macy.
Oh, I like William H. Macy.
Yes, from the US remake of Shameless. People would probably know him from. He was in Fargo. He's been in quite a lot of things.
Yep.
And also there is a character called Stephen who calls in because he thinks the radio's sending him messages. The radio's talking to him, and then Frasier says like, Stephen, you need to turn your radio down, and he goes like, oh, it knows my name. It's very funny. That's Ron Howard.
Oh really?
Yes. From Happy Days going all the way back, and all sorts of things, and
he's had a guest spot on just about every sitcom for the last like 30 years.
The narrator from Arrested Development,
yeah,
and directed a lot of good films. Directed Apollo 13, which is a great film.
That's true,
and we've already talked about because there is that whole connection with Apollo 13 and
Dan Butler and
Dan Butler,
Pete something. Was it Pete, Paul, some P. I
can't remember who it was. It was one of the guys.
Yeah.
Anyway, and also a weird little. I don't know, it's probably not meant to be the same character, but they don't explicitly say it isn't, so I'm going to assume that it is.
Okay.
When Frasier's sitting in the police precinct and he's waiting to get his bail posted, he says, he's kind of complaining to Niles or Martin, whoever it is around, and says, like, I can't believe that I'm stuck in here with all of these, and he turns around because there's this big guy sitting next to him, and he says, like, all of these other wrongfully convicted individuals or something like that. And it's because it's the very big, beefy guy who looks like he'd probably beat the crap out of Frasier. It's the same actor that appeared in You Can't Tell a Crook by the Cover, or by his cover, cover, or whatever, who is one of the pool hustlers that tries to beat Frasier up at the end of the episode. So I'm gonna say it's the same character.
Well, it is all that scene does all take place in his head.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just remembering.
He's putting that in
previous.
People say that
criminals.
when you have a dream. there's no, like, you can't
can't
make
create
up
a face.
faces.
Yeah.
Anytime you see a face in your dream that you don't recognize, it's someone that you've seen on the street and you kind of stored away for later. So yeah, that's a good point. It must be the same guy.
There we go. How fun.
That is fun.
That is actually quite fun. That I always say these things and it sounds very sarcastic. I do like these little facts. They are interesting. Right, episode 6, last episode of the disc. We've got Our Parents Ourselves. Daphne's mother? No, Roz's mother.
Roz's mother
is in town. The former Attorney General of Wisconsin, the cheese state. She is come to, I think, just visit. There's no particular reason, is there?
No, I don't think so.
To visit, see Alice, to just sort of help her around the house and stuff. She's there for a wee while. And Roz is sick of her and wants a night without her. So they decide to set up Martin. And the two of them can go on a date. And Roz can have a night to relax without her. And they can go out and potentially hit it off and spend some time together while the cheese whiz is in town. That's what I'm going to call her now.
The cheese whiz?
Cheese whiz. It does not go particularly well.
No.
Despite a good start. They do seem to get along pretty well. But they go to a late night jazz club and Martin comes home and threatens to kill Frasier in his sleep if he ever sets him up with another woman. Saying she was perfectly lovely but the most boring woman that he's ever had to interact with. Which, if she's a politician...
Yeah.
They're pretty boring people.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. They're not the most interesting. I don't know what their chat's like. But
no, I imagine it's not great.
Yeah. So, yeah, things do not go well, but Roz and her mother... what's her name?
Joanna.
I keep forgetting. I want to say Helene, but Helene's someone else's mother.
Yeah, probably.
From another episode. I don't remember.
No. Are you thinking of Helen?
No,
who's
Helene.
Faye's mother?
No, there's Helene.
Oh, I have no idea.
From one episode. That's going to... I'm going to need to look that up later. That's going to bug me.
The one person that's popped into my head is... you've seen Ready or Not? The film Ready or Not? Or you haven't? Okay, that must not be what you... Yeah, that must not be what you're thinking of. No. There's a character who's like one of the characters' weird aunts. It's called Aunt Helene.
Aunt Helene. No, there's a Helene.
And she kind of looks a little bit similar.
There is a Helene somewhere, but no. Right, anyway, that's not the point. Joanna, yes. So Joanna had a lovely time, and Roz and her start to connect kind of because of it, because they're both, having a good night and everything. They're waiting for Martin to call. Obviously, a call that will not come because he hated her.
Yeah.
Thus resulting in a sort of surprise date at the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Round
at Frasier's apartment. Excuse me. To which Martin has invited another date. I should know this.
You should. Yeah.
Because she's in.
She's in a couple of
20. No, it's not 20. Bonnie. I got there. I know. Ended in Oni.
Bonnie.
Something
in Oni.
Something Oni. Yeah, Bonnie. Sorry. Oh God, that's so bad. Who's very chipper and not a fantastic actress. I have to say. I don't know what you think. Every time she's on screen, I'm kind of like, you are eclipsed by everyone else here.
Fair enough.
Which is maybe a little bit harsh, but.
Yeah, we don't really see much of the character. I don't know if I would necessarily put it down to the acting. I think the character is not especially interesting.
Yeah, that's fair. She's kind of just there to be Martin's brief love interest, I suppose.
Yeah.
So, yeah, again, they've invited Niles is coming along as well, and he has to pretend to be Bonnie's blind date, and then it all comes to a head when Martin and Bonnie go off. Martin goes off to explain to Bonnie the whole situation and what's going on, and he's just pretending to put up with Joanna and everything, and they all hear this on Alice's baby monitor, and then he very explicitly says what he thinks of Joanna, which is a shame.
Yeah,
she hears it all, but what can you do?
Yeah,
she says herself, like, she kind of laughs it off.
Yeah, she said working in politics, you people call you all sorts of names and you need to get used to it.
Which is, I guess, good of her. Because you could take it very harshly, and Roz could take it very harshly as well. But they do make up in the end. And that's the end of the ex-cop and the cheese whiz. That would be a good name for a band.
The ex-cop and the cheese whiz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like a kids' morning cartoon show. Yeah,
maybe.
No?
I don't know.
Fine. It's got a bit of charm. Mm-hmm. Joanna, I think, is a nice guest star.
Yeah.
I do quite like her. Mm-hmm. I like that this is the first time we've seen her as well. We've heard
yeah.
plenty.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think it is nice seeing Roz's mother after hearing so many references to her. Martin is very... I'm trying to say played up. What's the word? He's played a lot more of a jerk in this episode than usual. I think he is quite like unfairly critical of Joanna. Mm-hmm. He when he first comes home from the date, he's sort of very polite at the door and sort of saying bye to her and everything. And then as soon as the door shuts, he's like the other end of the spectrum. He's really critical and really quite
rude,
about how boring she is, and
which is just kind of doesn't feel like him. Mm-hmm. It feels like he kind of be like, "Oh well, it didn't work out. Yeah, she wasn't that interesting." Blah 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 blah. But he's quite like cruel about it, which is a bit of a shame. Mm-hmm. And everyone else in the episode is kind of just there to advance the plot.
Yeah, that's true.
They don't have much else to go. Yeah. Daphne's going out to a cinema showing, a screening of Wuthering Heights.
Yes,
and Niles tries to
go along because
weasel out of the Super Bowl and is quote unquote blind date with Bonnie to go and chase her down, which is a little bit creepy almost. I don't know. Yeah. Well, I guess if they might go as friends, Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's not much to this episode.
There's
really not. It's pretty plain.
I enjoy when at the point when Martin and Joanna are on their date, Roz goes back to Frasier's flat on the pretense that they have work to do, that they're going to be going over promos. Yeah. I don't know what that means, but they have to go over promos. But they're sitting with Daphne and watching the Miss World pageant or whatever. And there are a couple of jokes that come out of that I think are quite funny. Daphne says that Miss Venezuela's dress is so high cut that you can almost see Caracas. I really like that. Yeah. I think it's the only reason that I know that Caracas is the capital of Venezuela.
Is it?
Yeah.
I was thinking of like Krakatoa. That's not. It's a completely different place.
It is.
That's the volcano.
It is a volcano, yeah.
Caracas is not a volcano.
It's not. No.
Well, there you go. Learn something new every day.
Yeah.
As I say, it's really not much this episode. It's very middle of the road, and that's why I gave it a 3.
I also gave it a 3
because it is just that.
Yeah.
Middle of the road. It is a fine episode, but it doesn't do anything particularly great or particularly bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't really have much more to say about it. It's one of those episodes that's just kind of there.
I really like seeing Rose's mother, especially because she is played by Eva Marie Saint.
That's true.
Very well-known actress.
She is.
She was in North by Northwest, which is one of my favourite films.
Yeah.
She was in On the Waterfront with Marlon Brando. Mm-hmm. She's still going.
Is she?
Which surprised me, to be honest, because she's been going for quite so long. I would have assumed that she would be retired by now. But no, she did some voice acting something recently.
Good for her.
Yeah. We got another couple of guest stars as well, actually. There's
do we?
Yeah, well, a couple of guest callers. Someone right at the beginning calls in. It's a couple who are having an argument because the wife wants to invite her female friends over on the Sunday, which is the Super Bowl, and her husband says that it should be men only because it's the Super Bowl and it's sacred or whatever, and then challenges Frasier's knowledge of football. It's quite a funny little bit. But they're voiced by Marlo Thomas, plays Sophie. She was in That Girl. I don't know if you know.
I know the theme song.
Yeah.
That girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one.
That one.
Yeah, she was that girl.
She was that girl.
She was
she that
girl?
girl?
Oh shit, that girl. And her husband Larry is voiced by Phil Donahue, who was an actor and TV personality. He had his own like talk show for a long time, the Phil Donahue Show. They're a married couple in real life, and I always like it when married couples appear as married couples together.
I hope they don't have arguments like that in real life.
No, I don't know.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
And that is disc 2.
It is.
It's the end.
So that's us. That's halfway. Half the episode's down.
Where is the time gone?
Yeah.
That has been what? When did we start? End of February.
The first episode, we released the first episode start of January.
Was it that long? It's been 7 months.
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's been almost a year since we recorded the first episode, though, because there was a long stretch of time.
We did actually.
We recorded it. I think we recorded the first episode in October.
It was, yeah.
And didn't release until January. So yeah, coming up on a year that we've been recording.
Go. One half down, one half to go.
Yeah.
We've still got plenty more opinions to share with you. So I hope you're up for that. Before we say goodbye, any highlights from this disc?
Oh, what could I give a highlight? I'm going to say it's from Merry Christmas, Mrs. Moskowitz. And it's when... so Niles is left to go and help Daphne out with this show. And he comes back in and he's dressed as Jesus. And he kind of walks around the apartment for a little bit. And Frasier has been giving a tour to Faye and Helen.
Yep.
And comes back into the living room as Niles is walking out of the kitchen dressed as Jesus. And Frasier, in a panic, screams, Jesus. And Niles T-poses. He kind of freezes and puts his arms up and then runs back into the kitchen. And it's just that, the way he does it. Yeah. And then when Frasier goes into the kitchen to confront him, he's sort of like pressed himself into the corner to hide. And it's very funny.
Yeah.
Actually, and just God, there are so many bits that I think I want to give my highlight to. It's just the whole episode.
That whole
I just
episode
got to give it the whole episode. It's so
fantastic,
funny.
Yeah. I don't know what I would give it to. Honestly, I think this disc has some pretty good moments. I like. I'm gonna go for the non-funny one, right? I'm gonna go for the nice one. In How to Bury a Millionaire, one of the budgetary items that Niles has put down on needing to cut back on is antiques. And one of the antiques he's bought recently is a No Coward pen.
Yeah.
Which I don't know how much it cost, like a few $1,000s presumably.
Yeah.
Frasier convinces him to return it after he moves out of the Montana, and as soon as he does, he jumps in and buys it, which he feels guilty about and blah, 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 whatever. But at the end of the episode, when Niles is he's signing
the lease in the Shangri-La.
Signing the lease in the Shangri-La. And Frasier says, "Here, this might make it easier for you. Consider it a housewarming gift," and hands over the No Coward pen as a gift to Niles. And he kind of tears up and says, like, "Thank you." And I really like that moment.
Yeah,
I think that's really, really lovely. Because it just, I don't know, it just kind of encapsulates that Frasier and Martin are there for him in this difficult time, and it's just a really nice gesture, and it shows that Frasier's kind of over his. Not ego, but selfishness, I guess, of purchasing the pen after it was returned. There you go. Good Samaritan.
Yeah.
Ties into that whole just
doing nice things and not needing anything in return.
So I really like that. I think it's a really nice moment.
That is a nice moment.
Yeah. And we will have more nice moments to come, I'm sure, when we move on to disc 3 of season 6. Things start to heat up.
They do.
That's to be fair, that's kind of the start of a good season and a half long plot point.
Yep.
More, even.
Kicking off in the next disc.
Yeah, so we've got that to look forward to.
It's all changing.
Yeah. We've got some guest stars next week as well. And I know that because I accidentally watched an additional episode this week.
I'm going to be honest. I'm going to have to watch these episodes twice because, like I mentioned, I wasn't well. I had COVID. I watched up to about halfway through season 7. I was like, I watched like pretty far ahead.
I'm just picturing you like sitting on the couch with your like mouth like agape, just like. Yeah.
I barely remember it, to be honest. I just put it on to keep me sane, but I was very delirious. I was like not doing well. The couple of days when I was really symptomatic, I was not doing well at all.
Don't get COVID, kids. It's not fun.
It's definitely not fun.
Get your shots. Do your masks.
Yeah.
Keep yourself safe. And yes, keep yourself healthy mentally. What is it again? God, it's so hot in this room.
It is hot.
Oh my God. What is it? Have a great day. Good mental health. And thank you for listening.
Yeah,
that's the order, right?
That's the order.
Right, okay, let's do it. Okay, so have a great day, good mental health, and thanks for listening. Nailed it.
Bye-bye.
This has been a Happy Brothers podcast. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at HappyBrosPod.
All opinions are our own, and as always, special thanks to Leah O'Donnell for the show's artwork.